Let's get straight to the conversation on the state of our nation. Being joined on the program from our Abuja studios, the senator representing Edo North, former governor of Edo State, and former APC national chairman, as well as a former Labour leader, Senator Adams Oshiomhole. Comrade Senator, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program, and good to see you.
Geoffrey, thanks so much for having me.
All right, just before we came on air, we saw that Clark earlier today was being put to rest, and I understand the Senate President actually went there for that event. I don't know whether you have any thoughts on the memory of the elder statesman in that sense before we get to the conversation, sir.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. We had the privilege to pay tribute to our departed elder statesman, a truly elder statesman in every sense of that word, now late Edwin Clark, for what he represented in Nigeria, and in particular in Niger Delta. One of the things I said is that what people seem to say every day is that, oh, you should speak truth to power. And I said my recollection of Clark was that he spoke truth even in power, not just to power, because he was in government at both federal and state level, and his voice was always loud and clear. His commitment to the unity of Nigeria was not in doubt, but he was clear that that unity, the path to that unity and peace require that we do justice to the minorities. And he believed that the degradation of the Niger Delta sub-region is not an act of God, it's a result of government economic policy, and it's really right that government pays attention to ensure that there are remedial measures and the Niger Delta region attract special development. He was so yielding. When he was convinced, he stood by his facts, and you can also see that in the later years, he was not just he wasn't a politician really, because he denounced as many PDP as he could, just like he would denounce as any APC governor that did things that he wasn't sure were right. So we truly lost a voice in the sub-region and in Nigeria. This is not just in the manner of normal speaking, he does speak ill of the dead. Up to the last moment, Clark was never tired. He raised his voice, and you can't ignore it. So may his soul rest in perfect peace.
Amen. I had the blessing and the privilege to interview him. I totally agree with you, comrade, that he kept at it even until the last moment. And coincidentally, and fortunately, we still have voices like yours that are quite strong and quite vocal, which is why I know that you're going to give responses as straight as possible. But, and again, one of the reasons I like to talk to you, sir, is the fact that you have what I consider a panoramic view of state affairs. You've been a governor. That puts you in the executive position. Now you're a senator. So you oversight them. And then you were a Labour leader. You were literally in the trenches in that sense. So you have the views as much as possible. But I watched you the other day when those PDP senators are defected to, I think, led by the Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly. And apparently, I don't think you were happy when you hear people say, it was Adams Oshiomhole that said, as soon as you join the APC, your sins are forgiven. And I listened to what you said and the remarks you made in reference to the context why you said what you said then. So let's give total closure to Nigerians who may not have heard exactly the context of what you said, so that perhaps people that are referencing it, not knowing the context, will be able to understand why you said what you said, sir.
Geoffrey, God bless you so much. You know, in anything I do, I take it seriously, but sometimes I realize that you have to have some humor, you know, to warm up an environment. I was national chairman, and President Buhari came to Benin to flag off presidential campaign, and as usual, several PDP stalwarts came to join the APC. And one of them is called Il-Wobe. I come from Edo State. I come from Edo North. The language of Edo Central and Edo North is more or less the same, even in Edo South. Il-Wobe means I don't do bad. And I just jokingly said to the young boys, okay, now you have been in a party of bad people, people deceiving people. Now I'm happy now that you have left them to come and join APC. Then you will live up to your father's name, which is Il-Wobe. You will no longer do bad, because obey means evil in our language. I will not do it means I will not do evil. So now you will live as a progressive. This has nothing to do whatsoever with corruption. This guy was not even holding, he was not a public officer, whether at the state level or federal level. He wasn't known to me even as a contractor. So how people could whip this, and why it hurt me, I had to speak about it that day, is that those journalists who paraded, they know better. Because I challenged them to play that tape. They have the tape. Because this was an event covered live. It was not a secret outing. So let them play it back and say, fact check. This is what Oshiomhole said. But they just choose to continue to use it. I was particularly shocked that an otherwise a very senior editor could ask someone like the immediate past governor of Delta State, Okowa, did you, in a very mischievous manner, with due respect to him, somebody said I should ask you, did you get permission from Oshiomhole that your sin will now be forgiven before you now decide to decamp to APC? And I think the guy didn't quite understand that the question was informed by just mischief. And the man tried to answer. I said, no, he has not even met me for a long, long time, which is true. And he worked with Obaseki against me, which is also true. But when we met on stage that day, I said, my brother, having been a governor and I was a governor, we are friends. So, but we'll be put aside by different party divides. So now we are back together, hopefully for never to part no more. So how can anybody do that? And I believe that this is just the art of mischief makers. They prefer to take the negative side. Now, how can you ask, what is my status? Like you rightly said, I am now in the legislature. Is the legislature responsible for prosecution of anybody involved in the wrongdoing? And what will be the wrongdoing? And so it was just mischief. So I have to remind those people that one of them, who's the man who made that statement, he himself was invited by EFCC after he had abused Jonathan as much as he could. Jonathan brought him on board to become his spokesman, and he became his spokesman, in my view, shamelessly. You don't condemn Padediam, I end up consuming it all over. And thereafter, EFCC arrested him too. And I said, was I the one who granted him bail to leave PDP now to become where he is? Because I noticed that consistently. Even on Labor Day, he was saying, some Labor leaders who have been involved in picketing, they fought for workers. He couldn't even credit me with that fact that I led protest. This is the guy who wrote Oshiomhole, the people's president, when I was president of the NSC. Rather credit me with that, they say, when they leave NSC, they now go and become governors, then they become senators. I say, if you are angry because you wanted to be deputy governor and you lost the election in Ogun State, is that the reason you'll be so paranoid that every opportunity you want to abuse me? You want to abuse me, don't have it on the TV, we meet on the street, and we fight it out.
The thing is, I know that you taking a swipe at anybody who takes a swipe at you, you're not in short supply. The idea was just for you to provide clarity and give closure at the end.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I think it's fair enough.
I didn't want to drag anybody in so that we stay within the context of it. But let's move on now to what played out today.
It's better that way.
Yeah, let's move on to what played out today. 3 more senators have now joined the APC. 68 APC lawmakers now in the National Assembly. That means with 5 more joining you, you have a stronghold of a 2/3 majority. That simply means, for Nigerians who may not understand, if you want anything passed, APC alone can make it happen. Is that dangerous for democracy? Because now you're the beneficiary of this. So it's uhuru, it's exciting. But speak as a statesman. Is this healthy for democracy?
I will always do. If you watch my contributions on the floor of the Senate, the first party is Federal Republic of Nigeria. Because I have argued, and no apologies, that the sum total of all the political parties in Nigeria, whether in or out of government, they are not equivalent to Nigeria. Nigeria is much more than the sum total of all the parties. I stand by that. And if I see a conflict between party interests and national interests, I have no difficulty resolving it in favor of the Nigeria interest. And that informs the position I take on issues. If I'm wrong, it's my head, not my heart. Now, with regards to the defection, I was particularly excited because those who join us today include co-founders of APC. Governor Alero was never in PDP. He was one of those governors who ran election on AMPP platform in 1999, before the then president did everything to try to undermine the AMPP, take their chairman, the chairman of the AMPP, made him a special advisor, compare some of the governors to the camp, and AMPP, who had about, I think they had up to 10 states at the beginning, but in the end, they had few. Of course, you also know the issue of Ashidu, who was in Bauchi, and how he left, and the state went to PDP. He was initially in AMPP. So a man like a co-founding governor, I'm a co-founding governor of AMPP. Now, I was national chairman, and I know the contribution of Senator Yahaya, not only to APC, to the governance of Nigeria. As an APC senator, they had internal political disagreements in Kebbi State, and unfortunately, he decided to leave. But he left the party, but he didn't leave his people. And the people returned him back on PDP platform. Now, Alero was always, he's not just a co-founder, he had run election over and over, and he has always been winning. And so, it was again this little misunderstanding that made him leave. So, when a founder of a house returned to the house, those of us who have been there, who feel, miss their absence, I mean, it's a thing of joy. Now, whether this is a danger to democracy, no, I don't think so, sir. Let me remind you that even in the newsroom, I'm not an editor, but I have many friends who are editors. There are some debates as to what should be the editorial policy today. So the fact that we now have so many APC members, overwhelmingly, doesn't mean there will be no debate. If you have been following even debate in the House, you will find that sometimes you can't even distinguish who is PDP, who is APC. In terms of the position that some people take. You know, so I think that if you look at the US, they celebrate when a president has control of the Congress as well as the Senate. Every government wants that because democracy, yes, I can say, and I've argued that in a sense you can say democracy is not only a means to an end, that it is an end in itself, in the sense that the right to contribute, the freedom to express yourself, because even dictators can build roads, even dictators can build hospitals. What dictators cannot accommodate, they don't have the appetite to listen to contestation, to divergent views. And what makes this one more interesting is that, you know, when matured people who have made their mark, you can't say they are hungry. They decide, look, I'm returning to the house I helped to co-found because the reason that forced me out of the house are no longer valid. I want to be part of the movement. My progressive credentials remains the same, and I am returning to the house I co-found. I think it's just something to be celebrated. I can assure Nigerians that that does not mean that if you watch today's proceedings, for example, where today is not exactly a typical day where we have a contestation because we didn't have much controversial matters. I'm sure, as I'm sure you always do, you will find your reporter will observe in Abuja that nothing will change in terms of how we look at issues. The diversity of Nigeria is better service at the National Assembly because Senator, every local government is represented, every interest is represented, every sentiment is represented. Yes, sir. Yeah,
Senator, some would say because you're the beneficiary, so this looks nice and all easier going. So at the end of the day, because it boils, whatever contributions are made from all sides in terms of the lawmakers, when it comes to the voting, people always like to vote along political lines, which is why I asked that question. We've had that controversial vote of state of emergency. We've had all kinds of votes that generated a lot of all this. But you have been a governor, and I'm wondering, there are states, let's say, for instance, Lagos. Lagos is quote-unquote default APC state. It's difficult to beat them in their own game in that sense. So there are places like Delta, there are places like Akwa Ibom, who are looked at as a PDP state. So one is wondering whether there is some truth, maybe I'm careful, let me be careful with my words, some sense in people who say, people who have naturally a home run in securing a re-election, like Governor Borowore or Governor Nowu, we hear may defect, he hasn't confirmed, but he's been saying things, deciding now to join the APC. Is this a question of implicit coercion, or what exactly is going on? I'm speaking to you as somebody who has been governor, who knows that this is a possibility that they can win re-election without joining the APC.
Absolutely. I ran my election as opposition 2 times. In 2007, the PDP rigged me out. I went to court, I fought them. Thanks to courageous judiciary, I won. And in 2012, I went for a rerun, and I won 18/80. I scored the highest vote ever. Not only winning all the local government, I won 74 or 75.6% of the total vote cast. All the other parties put together got the remaining votes. So I understand the meaning of opposition. I think any governor of what he sought will not move because he's afraid of what or the other. But the point is, if you are in a place, even the Nigeria Constitution recognizes, if your party is in tatters, the time you should have spent on state matters, you are spending the time to be rebuilding an umbrella that is torn irretrievably. You rather want, like Governor rightly put it, he said, if you have an air on the ground, you want to board, and the pilot say, wait a minute, there are crises in the engine and the left or the right, do you still want to enter because sentimentally Akwa Ibom is, Ibom Air is owned by Akwa Ibom state government. You can as well go and board another flight if you want to fly to safety. That for me was loaded. And you can't afford that logic. You can't afford that logic. But let me remind you that those who started defection, the man, the most popular one in the history of Nigeria, is His Excellency Atiku Abubakar. when, as a sitting president, as a sitting vice president of Nigeria, he decamped from PDP to ACN, which is now part of APC. Was he coerced by ACN that was then led by Bola Tinubu, Asiwaju Tinubu, not a non-state president, as of that time? So that we have to settle all these arguments about whether there's cohesion or no cohesion. Was Atiku Abubakar coerced by Tinubu to come and join us in ACN? I was governor in ACN then, so I am familiar with the issue. Did ACN coerce Atiku Abubakar to leave Obasanjo and PDP to come and pick our ticket and run as president? Now, did we coerce him to return, to leave our party and return back to PDP, to go and contest with Abili Jonathan? And when he lost, did we coerce him not being in the state with Jonathan as president? Did we have the instrument to coerce him to come back to APC to contest the primaries against General Buhari, who later became the president, and now former President Buhari? So where is cohesion? I think the best person who can write a book on why people decamp should be the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. It would be nice to ask him, as a city vice president, you left your party, you were coerced by a non-state actor. So I don't want to discuss all the other one, because when you discuss this in the media, I often ask. We have my very dear friend, Peter Obi, who governed Anambra for 8 years. When he was there, he was already wearing Ojuku's symbol. When he left, he joined PDP. When he lost PDP, he went back to Labour. And now, I don't know what he's doing in Labour, and now I hear about the obedient movement. Now, I don't know whether that is good. All
right, distinguished.
So all of these people who talk now about the check their history. Is President Bola Tinubu and few of us who can say we have never decamped.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll give that to the president. But you've changed parties, not necessarily that you defected because of mergers and all of that, in that sense.
That's right.
But at least you've changed parties. Right. Which is why we're calling...
You are correct. We are matched.
As far as a lot of people are concerned, politicians don't have ideologies in Nigeria, so it's interest. So if we settle down, maybe we'll not quarrel with anybody as to where they want to go to, because we understand what ideological political parties mean, and this looks like just a political platform. But distinguished, I'm going to bring one question, then we'll go on a break, because there are so many things that the president had promised as far as his renewed hope agenda, which... people like you, all of you, put together to make sure that he got re-elected in 2023, and 2027 is coming, which is why all this alignment is going. But quick, if you can answer in about 1 minute before we go on that break. A bill just suffered a setback today, not in your chambers, in the lower chambers, where they were attempting to bring in rotational presidency. I know the way politicians calculate, and some calculations have been, it's now the time of the southern president. Let's allow the southern president to be for 8 years, because Muhammadu Buhari was there for 8 years. So some people are calculating that since this democracy, the South has led the presidency for at least 18 years, while the North has done 10 years, and you can flip the page for vice presidency. So I want to ask you, are we missing an opportunity to put some level of control as to this argument that is only a gentleman argument into our grown norm, or this is necessary to be thrown out in terms of rotational presidency?
Well, there was a time I argued that if there was a rotation to be made, it should be a rotation between the ruling class and the working class. Let them alternate, so that those who rule can also understand what it means to be ruled, to be presided over. Now, if you write it to the Constitution, North-South, how does it explain your ideological issue that you are saying? Which means we are going to form political parties on the basis of regions. And then thereafter, knowing Nigeria, when you have done that, tomorrow somebody is going to say right to the country that we shall also rotate based on religion. And then by the time you come to definition of religion, we will rotate between Christian, a segment of Christian, whether PFN or Catholic or Protestant, and then Muslim, Inderika or Izala, and then even the pagans. We say, look, we are part of this federation. We too, we need to return to paganism, because this is our belief, it's our human right. I think that the defeat of that motion, in my view, is appropriate. Nigerians will, it doesn't have to be written. The British people don't have 1,000-page constitution, and they have a very robust, stable governance. They've had ideological-driven political party, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. Same can be said for America. What is the volume of American document? But leaders are supposed to have a sense of justice and fairness. If something is really important, it doesn't have to be stated in the law. by human behavior, custom, and tradition. A couple of issues are better resolved that way. That you put something in the Constitution because you have somebody in mind today. When it changes tomorrow, you have a problem. I think that Nigerians, by their vote, will always be trusted to resolve this issue as to how they want it. Now, to try to use the law to use geography as a basis, I do not find much merit in it.
All right, Senator.
I don't think this president, for example, I don't think this president needs he didn't need rotation to be where he is. He fought his way through. And as you can see, more people are joining him from the northern part of the country, not just from the south. And they are joining because